Welcome to Women Making News Live. I'm Demi Hicks, and our special guest today is Dr. Julie Gedro, Dean of the Business School for SUNY Empire State College. Julie, welcome to Women Making News Live.
Thank you, Demi. It's great to see you and great to be here.
It is so great to see you too. You know, Julie, as I was preparing and thinking about all the years that I've known you and our time together today, I couldn't help but notice your credentials and that you have definitely a portfolio of credentials. So I'll start with a question. Was that a course that you set for yourself in acquiring those credentials, or was it more opportunistic along the way?
Each facet of my journey through a career development lens, which I don't necessarily decouple from the discussion about life journey. It is a separate piece that's related to the life journey piece. But no, I did not have a master plan for each component along the educational and credential path. And I realized last week, Demi, there's about 4 years between each degree, which gives, I think, a more intentional, strategic optic than what my experience has been, what the truth has been.
Fascinating. And so of those credentials, and I so appreciate you and all of them, but of those credentials, which one is most meaningful? Is there one that is most meaningful to you, and why?
If I were to consider and raise up the one that's the most meaningful, it would be my undergraduate degree, Bachelor of Arts in Economics and English from William and Mary. And the reason I say that is because that's the point at which my identity shifted to becoming a college graduate. So because that was a threshold of identity and educational mobility, it was a marker, I would point to that if I were to consider which degree is the most meaningful. And also, for much of my life, I think remembering back to even 12 years old, there was something very, very captivating about the literal ivy that was on the brick, the ivy on the brick walls of William and Mary. I have that embedded in my consciousness as a wonderful memory and imprint.
Oh, that's beautiful. And your undergraduate, that says so much about the work that you do now, which we'll get more into. But it also, what you just shared about those memories and those things along our journey that impact us, that stay with us for a lifetime. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
So you are with SUNY Empire State College. How long have you been with SUNY Empire State College?
I joined the faculty in July of 2003. So I celebrated 19 years here a couple weeks ago. So I'm in my 20th year at Empire State College.
Congratulations. And tell us, let's just jump in. Tell us about SUNY Empire State College and give us some history and what makes it so special.
So we were founded in 1971 by the SUNY Board of Trustees and the then Chancellor, Ernest L. Boyer, who became the U.S. Commissioner of Education. And we were founded as some of the characteristics that I will offer are mine, not limited to me, but I but the way that I characterize Empire State College is a disruptor. We've been a disruptive, innovative institution for 51 years. And part of our foundation is to provide educational quality and educational access to those who might otherwise not see themselves as college material, whatever college material might be conceived as being. And I think that we might get into the details of the educational model perhaps a little bit later, but we are founded on the premise of educational access.
Yes. That's what stands out for me is that Empire State College creates access. And go deeper on that, Julie. What do you mean by creating access to those that might not otherwise have access to a college education?
We honor the person and their totality of what their academic dreams and goals and visions are for themselves. And we decouple the idea of that there's a fixed curriculum that one must take every single course in the curriculum, no matter if it's someone who is well into a career and has already accumulated experience that could roughly or closely equate to curriculum. So some of our principles educationally are of adult learning principles, and that is that, and Malcolm Knowles is one of the foundational scholars of adult learning and adult ed, that adult learners bring a rich variety of wisdom and problem-centered focus and an agenda to the learning environment. And so to the greatest extent possible, what Empire State College, one of the many things that I would offer that we are very good at is fitting curriculum, including course modality, into where the learner is. So for example, if someone is a small business owner and has run a business for many, many years, why would it make sense that we require that individual in a business degree to take principles of management or principles of marketing? That doesn't respect what the learner already knows. I'm going to stop there because I have a passion for getting into detail, and I want to be mindful that this is a comparatively short time, but delightful time together.
Yeah, well, it is. You're right. And some things that you just said, I think are really important that I'm curious about and important for our audience to hear more. And that is that you meet the learner where they're at and you honor and respect their prior learning.
Yes.
How do you do that? And how does somebody up in some institution allow you to do that?
We have a model, a long-standing model that morphs, shifts, and improves over time as technology and resources and tools, and also what we know about education refines and grows. But a student works with a faculty mentor who helps coach and guide and advise a student through handcrafting a degree program. And through that process of handcrafting, which is called educational planning, there's a process of inquiry and exploration around what the student already might know that is college credit worthy / equivalent. And so the mentor and the student work in partnership to identify prospective and potential topics to brainstorm, outline, and then when it's agreed upon that, yes, we're going to pursue, the student's going to pursue the topic, they then draft an essay, submit it into a portal, a database, and then we have colleagues who direct that process of matching the essay and the request for what's called prior learning assessment with a subject matter expert who reads the essay and interviews the student and then writes an evaluator report recommending the title, the number, the type of credits.
Yeah.
And a student can do that X number of times until they reach a threshold of how much what's called advanced standing they bring into their program, because you have to take a certain amount of credits at Empire. You can't just transcript and PLA through the whole degree.
Right.
But that recommendation, Demi, becomes part of the student's portfolio. I'm going to stop there again to.
Yeah. So no, this is all good. So a couple of things that stand out for me. If I am in the audience listening to you today, and Women Making News is about empowering women, but really Empire State College is for all people, as I understand it. But since we focus on empowering women, there could be a woman in our audience at any age who has longstanding professional experience. And I hear you saying that and she doesn't have her college degree, and she wants her college degree, and she has access to Empire State College to start down that path, and she will receive credit. It's all guided, and it's not easy, I understand, but that she has the opportunity to receive college credit for what she's done and for what she knows. So that's what I just heard you say.
That's exactly right. And
that's exciting.
Thanks. I mean, you might read my body language. Even just talking about our educational model is, 19 plus years into it. It's just something that I'm really, and I'm in good company, and I have a lot of company of folks, colleagues at Empire. We believe in our mission. We believe in our approach, and we see the results. And the lives transformed and improved by what we do. Demi, if I may, in addition to the IPLA, the individualized prior learning assessment process, we also recognize what we call professional learning evaluation, PLE. And what that means is if a student has a credential, and I brought the list up so I could give specific examples. Certified Director of School Facilities. Let me give another registered behavior technician, fire academy, real estate, just a very quick sample. Those are pre-evaluated, and when the student provides the appropriate requested documentation of that credential, real estate is my go-to example because I have that business frame and that orientation, and there's some financial credentials too that are PLE. That's, if you will, automatic. So there's both.
Yeah, so one of the things that struck me, Julie, in a conversation we had was when you were describing the Empire State College student. So what again does that student look like, who this program is just so beautifully positioned for? And how are they feeling? What are their thoughts? What are their feelings? And what's the model of this person?
It's so the age demographic is the range is significantly expansive from 18 to, at the Rochester commencement that we had earlier this year, I think 83. I'm pretty sure that's close. So a very wide age range, very wide demographic in terms of gender, gender expression, race, ethnicity, religion. So I wouldn't point to one aspect of demographic along any of those dimensions and say that's our typical student, because I think that part of our wonder is not unique. I don't want to presume to say unique, special. What makes it so special is we don't have an archetype. You have to have a high school diploma or equivalent, but someone could have gone to many different colleges or no college and come to Empire State College to either handcraft a degree through the process called educational planning that I briefly outlined, or this is a relatively new phenomena, Demi. Within the last 5 or so years, we have launched new structured programs that resemble, in our case, traditional business degrees. Yeah. So we keep adding to what's possible for a student.
Yeah. How many other academic institutions are around the country like Empire State College, of Empire State College quality?
Well, that last part I would be subjective and say none but us, but that's a very subjective. I will front load my bias, and in the 70s, far fewer institutions that do anything like what we do in 2022. Yeah. There's probably many private, public, and for-profit institutions across the US who have either piece parts of what I touched on or perhaps the whole offering. But I would, with all respect, say that we've been innovating for 51 years and we know what we're doing.
Yeah. You talked about a course having the opportunity to influence or change an individual's life. Say more about that. That's pretty, that gets my attention.
Mm-hmm. As someone who used to be a full-time HR practitioner, including in the recruitment and selection space, and now an academic oriented toward business, and then drilling down farther oriented toward HR, on its most basic level, and I often share this with students, is having a college degree can oftentimes be the difference between being in the initial cut of a job recruitment and selection opportunity, and even that no matter how good someone might look on paper, going in the thanks but no thanks pile. Mm-hmm. So on a very instrumental level, there's, I would argue, a transformative aspect from the get-go with career development, with a college degree. And what I've had the pleasure and the privilege to observe firsthand over all these years is the very personal, individual, economic, family, psychological effects that some are very immediate. At commencement, we can see it. I joke, I always make sure that in my kit under my robe, I have literally a box of Kleenex, because you can see like that crossing the stage, getting the medal around their neck, And then when the officer in charge or the president then confers the degree and they move the tassel over, I'm getting a little emotional thinking
Yeah, right.
about it now. That's transformation right before your eyes. And then seeing, because I keep friends, as I think you know, pretty much I keep friends for life. And so to see on LinkedIn and other platforms where students and alums go in life, it just doesn't really, I don't see how it can get any better than that.
Yeah, yeah. You've now mentioned the word transformation, and there you really expounded on it, and you mentioned it earlier as well. And education and learning and all in itself can be and probably is transformative. But you're talking about it with a special group of individuals, aren't you?
In one way to think about several examples and stories and of those who persist and obtain their degree with us might be categorized as educational underdogs. Some are not. I don't want to paint a broad stroke. Again, there's no one size fits all at Empire State College, which is another aspect of why I think it's so phenomenal, the opportunity that we have to work here as well as to benefit from us. But I think a lot of come from behind stories I've seen and observed. But then some folks are in very different positions where where they could pretty much go anywhere, and they want to come to Empire State College because of our innovative and flexible yet high quality model.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you making that very clear. So tell us a little bit more about the structure of Empire State College. I know that you are in Rochester, is that right?
Yes, headquartered. Sorry, please.
Are you the dean over Rochester, or are you the dean over all of Empire State College?
So we shifted from a geographically oriented structure to a subject matter or disciplinary structure in around 2016. So about 6 years ago, we shifted to discipline orientation. So using School of Business as an example of that, yes, I am the dean of the School of Business Undergraduate Studies and work and am headquartered in Rochester, but have statewide responsibility. So we have locations in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Staten Island, Selden, Long Island, Buffalo, Capital District in Saratoga, and a couple of other smaller locations, but we're upstate, downstate, west, capital. So pre-pandemic, I was a bit of a road warrior. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I was on the New York State Thruway or 81 or a fair amount. And then of course, we all know what happened in 2020, and then we have arts, and I won't go over the whole structure, but just to make the point that the structure of the School of Business is one of several: arts and humanities, human services, science, mathematics, and technology, social and behavioral sciences, and then our School for Graduate Studies.
Right. And do students enroll from all over the country, from all over the world? What's your geographic spread there? Just from New York?
As a State University of New York school, I would say that our primary focus is to serve residents of New York State, but we have students from all over the United States, and then we're a military friendly school as well, with intentionality. Like that's an area that we have an office of veteran and military education. And we also have a Center for International Education. So we have a pretty worldwide footprint. And then our primary focus, I would say, is our backyard. of New York State.
Yeah. Yeah. So Julie, what do you love about being the Dean of Business of SUNY Empire State College? What's the one thing, if I said, Julie, tell me one thing, and we're sitting over a cup of coffee, what would you say?
Having the privilege and the joy to work with people who I genuinely like and love and admire and respect, to bring our individual talents and then our group talents and then our organizational talents to bear on being an educational beacon in the world, and to be able to equip folks who might not otherwise see themselves as being able to finish a college degree, to create the conditions by which people can equip themselves and obtain a college degree.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to think about a mission and something to do every day that could feel more fulfilling to me. And I really want to emphasize that how much I love the people who I work with. And our School of Business has tremendous talent and folks who have done in the real world with their teaching, and our staff and professional employees are all in. They highly committed and highly dedicated to what we do.
Yeah. And I was really struck by what you shared when that graduate walks across that stage, and that you've got your Kleenex in your robe.
Yes.
Yeah. I certainly am appreciating your passion right now here in the moment. And I've known it for those 19 years that you've been at Empire State College. And so happy for you that you found that happy marriage for yourself.
Thank you.
And I know your students are appreciative of that too. Julie, I'm just so happy that you agreed to be with me and with Women Making News today. And, I want to give you the opportunity to put it all together. What do you hope that our audience takes away from spending time with you today?
Thanks for that. So a few things to think about that I'd like to offer, and that is, and reflective of my own journey, as we talked about, like has my career development, because it's still in process. I have plenty of, I used to say gas in the tank, but now in the electric, my battery has plenty of charge in it for many more miles.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure of that.
But so given that it looks more linear than it is, my own path, what I want to offer is when you acquire new knowledge and awareness, it can lead to new opportunities that you might not be able to imagine in detail in the moment. But the general framework for a goal or dream is sufficient. So, and within the process of learning, in whatever shape that might be, whether you're pursuing a college degree or engaged in a online learning or any other modality, I would encourage you to stay open to the ideas and the histories and the frameworks that you learn, and be open to developing that increased capacity for life, which may have very instrumental payoffs in the short run, may not. Sometimes years later, one might say, oh, I'm so glad I understand a little bit about that, whatever the topic is. Resist the natural tendency to compare yourself to others. Benchmarking in order to strategize is helpful, but self-abasing is not helpful. It's worth taking the time to develop a deep and abiding championship of yourself that sustains you through darkness, and difficulty. And what I hope for each student and graduate and anyone else here is learning and transformation and openness and curiosity.
Beautiful. Thank you, Julie. How do people find Empire State College when they say, I want to learn more?
Oh, thanks for that. www.esc, like Empire State College.edu.
All right. And what's the cost of that application fee?
It's comparatively nominal, Demi. I think $50.
Okay, good. So I want to join you, Julie, in encouraging everyone in our audience. If you've ever had any question about returning to school or starting school and obtaining your degree, check out SUNY Empire State College. And I know Julie would love to have a conversation with you to share more.
Indeed, I would. Or find me on LinkedIn or, yeah.
Great. Julie, thank you. Thank you for joining us at Women Making News Live.
It's a pleasure and a joy, Demi. It's good to connect.
Good to connect. See you soon.
Okay.
All right. So that was so inspiring to learn more about the educational process. And I want to share with all of you that the core of Women Making News Live are really two things. One, we give the microphone to women to share their interests, to share their stories, whatever it is they want to share, as Julie just did. But what we also do is we award scholarships. And to date, since last June, we've awarded 9 scholarships to deserving women for leadership, for career, or for life coaching. Those scholarships are made possible only through the generosity of our sponsors and our donors. So go to our website, womenmakingnews.org, and learn more about how you can donate or how you can sponsor today. We are deeply appreciative. This month's sponsor is a recurring sponsor from last year, Keith Hicks Consulting. Keith Hicks Consulting, executive coaching and advising of leaders. We are so appreciative and want to thank them and want to encourage you to go to Keith Hicks Consulting website and learn more about Keith Hicks. Thank you. Next month, our broadcast will have 2 broadcasts instead of just 1. Early in the month, we will be broadcasting Miko Lucas with Goodwin Recruiting. And later in the month, I believe August 30th, we will be broadcasting Justine Bautista, a research graduate from the University of California, Irvine. Learn more about Women Making News Live, and we appreciate you joining us today. We appreciate your support.